The day Alpha Marcus and I marked each other, his first love, Cecilia, threw herself off a cliff into a ravine overgrown with wolfsbane. The pack searched for 3 full days and nights before they found her, barely clinging to life. She was once the most spirited she-wolf in our pack, but the fall cost her a leg and the ability to bear pups. I grieved for the beautiful life that had been ruined, and I blamed myself for not seeing how fragile she'd become. Marcus comforted me gently. Elena, this wasn't your fault. Cecilia made her own choice. You did everything you could. Don't beat yourself up. Later, not long after our pup, Rylan, turned 5, a sudden illness tore through him, and he died in my arms. Night after night, Marcus held me, wiping away my tears. Don't be sad, Elena, he would murmur. We'll have other children. I had always believed my mate was the most considerate, most protective alpha in the entire world, until the day I overheard him speaking with his beta, Adrin. Alpha, the dosage of wolfsbane we gave Rylan was perfect, just as you ordered. It looked like a genetic defect. No one will ever suspect. It's been so long. Don't you think it's time to forgive the Luna? What's one pup compared to what Cecilia lost? She lost a leg, her future as a mother. Everything. The words hit me like a physical blow, and I stumbled back. My hands trembled, and the room tilted on its axis. Elena, calm down, I muttered, biting my lip. You have to stay calm. It wasn't real. Marcus wouldn't do that. He loved me. He loved Rylan. But the conversation echoed in my mind, every word a silver dagger piercing my heart. I turned and ran for the stairs. I had to get out of there. Elena. Marcus's voice called from his study, alerted by the sound. Is that you out there? My pace quickened, but tears blurred my vision. My foot missed the top step of the grand staircase, and I pitched forward. The world tilted violently, my body tumbling, weightless. A groan of agony tore from my lips with each jarring impact, but even that pain was nothing compared to the despair crushing my soul. Elena. Marcus's roar echoed through the mansion. He was at the bottom of the stairs in seconds, catching me just before I hit the landing. Gods, Elena, what happened? He knelt, pulling me into his arms. His face went pale when he saw the blood welling up around my ankle. I just fell, I said, instinctively trying to pull away to stand. Don't move. Let me see. His hand brushed gently over my ankle. A pained frown creased his brow. Of course. Through our mate bond, he felt a shadow of my pain. I tried to push away the memory of what I'd heard, but just 5 minutes ago, this same man had been speaking coldly about making me atone for the rest of my life. Now he was acting like the most caring husband in the world. The irony was a bitter pill in my throat. I'll get the first aid kit. Marcus stood and quickly returned with herbs and bandages. He helped me sit up. His movements practiced as he cleaned the wound, applied a salve, and wrapped it. Just then, the wolf fang pendant he never took off slipped out from under his shirt. Under the light of the crystal chandelier, I saw the engraving on its base for the first time. A single, deeply carved letter. C. Not E for Elena. C for Cecilia. My breath caught. The pendant he'd worn close to his heart for years, the one he'd had since the day we met, belonged to another woman. Elena? You're so pale. Marcus touched my cheek, his voice laced with concern. Are you hurt somewhere else? My throat tightened. His gentleness was a blade, twisting deeper into my heart with every soft touch. I'm fine, I said, pushing his hand away as I struggled to my feet. I need to lie down. I'll help you up. No, I said, my voice eerily calm. I can manage on my own. Marcus looked at me surprised but didn't insist. All right. Rest well. Call for me if you need anything. He caressed my cheek one last time. I watched him walk away, the pendant already hidden again beneath his shirt, tucked safely against his heart. I slowly made my way up the stairs. Each step sent a spike of pain through my ankle, but it was nothing compared to the agony tearing my heart apart. Back in the bedroom, I shut the door and slid down against the cool wood. I closed my eyes, but all I could see was Rylan, covered in blood, reaching for me with his small hands and whispering, "Mommy, save me." Against my bedroom door for a full hour. I didn't move until I heard Marcus's footsteps approaching from the hallway. Elena? Dinner is ready. The gentle, caring tone I once cherished now made my stomach turn. I wiped my tears and forced myself to stand. I'll be right there. In the dining room, Marcus was already seated at the head of the table. A plate of my favorite roasted lamb chops sat before him. When he saw me, he immediately stood to pull out my chair. How's the ankle? He asked, his voice full of concern. It's fine. I sat down and looked him directly in the eye. Marcus, there's something I want to ask you. The knife in his hand paused for a fraction of a second. What is it? Do you remember that little toy wolf Rylan loved so much? The one he had before he died. The fork and knife in Marcus's hands trembled slightly. Of course I do. The blue one. His voice was steady. Why are you suddenly asking about that? In the last few days of his illness, he wouldn't let it go. I held his gaze. Do you remember the last thing he said? This time Marcus froze. A full 3 seconds passed before he spoke. He said he loved us. A lie. Or maybe he'd just forgotten. Rylan's last words were, Daddy, why does it hurt so much? I reached out to him through our mind link, deliberately making my thoughts sound fragile. The healers said it was a genetic defect, but I can't help but feel the illness came on so suddenly. Marcus immediately put down his silverware and took my hand. Elena, don't torture yourself with these thoughts. You know the mortality rate for pups is high. Some hereditary conditions can't be predicted or cured, not even by the witches. His thoughts through the link were a flawless performance of grief and comfort. It wasn't anyone's fault, especially not yours. What a flawless performance. But Marcus, I made my voice tremble. I've been dreaming about Rylan lately. I dreamed that his death wasn't an illness. I stared hard into his eyes. I dreamed that he was murdered. The color drained from Marcus's face. Elena, you're exhausted. Stop this nonsense. His alpha command slammed into my mind, a wave of power that made my wolf instinctively whine in submission. But I pushed on, prodding at the edges of his lies. Do you think it could be a sign from the moon goddess? Enough. He shot to his feet, his wolf rising close to the surface, his voice ringing with an authority that defied question. I forbid you from speaking such nonsense again. He loomed over me. Get some rest. I have important negotiations with the Blackstone Pack tomorrow on their territory. As my Luna, you will accompany me. But that is an alpha's command, he said, his voice cold as ice. Tomorrow's negotiations will determine the future of our pack's enterprises. You will be there, and you will play the part of the perfect Luna. The harder he pushed, the more certain I was. Okay, I said, lowering my head in a show of submission. Marcus sat back down, his expression softening slightly. I'm sorry, Elena. I was out of line. He reached out to touch my face. I don't want you to live in the shadow of the past. I didn't pull away from his touch, but inside, I was frozen solid. I understand, Marcus. Wear the black formal suit tomorrow, he said, placing a perfectly cut piece of lamb on my plate. And don't forget the sapphire necklace I gave you. I nodded, but for reasons I couldn't explain, a deep, unsettling dread began to coil in my gut. Chapter 3. I woke the next morning to a violent wave of nausea. I rushed to the bathroom, my stomach churning, but nothing came up. Elena? Are you all right? Marcus's voice came from outside the door. I'm fine. I probably just slept poorly, I said, wiping my mouth and staring at my pale reflection in the mirror. My wolf's instincts were screaming at me, don't go today. Absolutely do not go. Marcus pushed the door open, holding a steaming bowl of venison broth. Drink this. You need your strength, he said, his voice as gentle as ever. Marcus, I'm really not feeling well today, I said, testing him. Could we possibly reschedule? His expression instantly turned to ice. Elena, this negotiation is crucial, he said, his tone hardening. The alpha of the Blackstone Pack is only available today. But I feel sick. You are my Luna, he interrupted. The pack's needs come first, Elena. Before your feelings, before anyone's. A chill ran down my spine. This was not the same man who had so tenderly bandaged my ankle last night. Fine. I said, all energy to argue gone. I'll get dressed. An hour later, Marcus's convoy was waiting in the driveway. 3 black, armored SUVs, each manned by our pack's most elite warriors. Isn't this a bit much? I asked, looking at the heavily armed guards. The packs in this territory are known for their savagery. I won't risk anything happening to you, Marcus said, helping me into the middle vehicle. These are necessary precautions. As he spoke, he leaned in and kissed my forehead. Just yesterday, I would have thought it was a gesture of love. The convoy began to move. I glanced at the route on the navigation screen and frowned. Marcus, why aren't we taking the main road? This route is faster, he said without looking up. Less traffic. I won't keep the Blackstone Alpha waiting. But this route goes through the Deadlands, I pressed. It's notorious for rogue attacks. The main road is heavily patrolled. Marcus turned his head to look at me, his eyes glinting with danger. Elena, I am the Alpha. I know what is safe and what is not. But Marcus, quiet. I am your Alpha, and you will trust my judgment. The crushing weight of his command nearly stole my breath. My wolf snarled with rage inside me. Are you questioning my judgment? Marcus's voice was as sharp as a blade. Or do you believe you know better how to protect this pack than an Alpha? I didn't. Then be quiet, he said, looking down at me with cold authority. Remember your place, Elena. You are my Luna, not my Beta. The car fell into a dead silence. I felt the waves of unease rolling through my body, and the fear in my heart grew stronger. It felt as though Marcus, my beloved Alpha husband, was personally delivering me into the jaws of a predator. The convoy pressed onward, heading into the desolate expanse known as the Deadlands. Marcus returned to his files as if our conflict had never happened. I told you before you got in the car, he said without looking up. As my Luna, your duty is to obey. As we drove deeper into the remote territory, a blockade of a dozen black SUVs appeared, completely sealing the road ahead. Warriors in silver masks stood on the roofs of their vehicles, claws already extended, their eyes gleaming with bloodlust. Stop the car. Now. My scream ripped through the silence inside the armored vehicle. Damn it. Marcus cursed. All wolves. Protect the Luna. Gunfire erupted instantly. Our guards leaped from the vehicles, shifting into their massive wolf forms and clashing with the enemy. The air filled with the scent of blood and the sound of furious snarls. Marcus yanked me close, shielding me with his body. Don't be afraid, Elena. I won't let them hurt you. But I saw it, a flicker of coldness in his eyes, and something that looked terrifyingly like relief. A Blackstone warrior broke through our line of defense and lunged for the car door. Marcus met the attack, a perfect picture of a protective Alpha, but at the critical moment, he created a deliberate opening. The enemy's claws tore through the armored door and clamped around my wrist. No, Elena. Marcus's performance was flawless as he reached for me. But he was too late. I was dragged out of the car and thrown hard onto the dirt. A searing pain ripped through my abdomen. Marcus! I cried, reaching for him. He lunged toward me but was immediately swarmed by 3 attackers. In the chaos, I was hauled into the back of a black van. Marcus! Save me! The door slammed shut. He didn't follow. He didn't even spare me a second glance. 3 hours later, I woke up in a dark, dank dungeon. Iron bars surrounded me, and the air was thick with the stench of blood and mildew. Chains bound my hands and feet, and the silver shackles burned my skin. Marcus's mate. The Luna of the Shadow Moon Pack. A low voice rumbled from the darkness. You're softer than I expected. I looked up to see a burly man approaching. He had cold, blue eyes and a scar that ran from his eyebrow to his chin. Damon, the Alpha of the Blackstone Pack. What do you want? I hissed, ignoring the pain racking my body. I don't want anything, he said, crouching to grip my chin in a rough hand. I'm just fulfilling a contract. A contract? Your Alpha husband is a smart Alpha. Damon stood up and motioned for his men to approach. He knows how to get things done in a way that benefits everyone. A silver-tipped whip whistled through the air and struck my back. The pain was like fire. I bit my lip, refusing to scream. But my abdomen was a storm of twisting, tearing agony. Oh, and by the way, he said, pausing with a wicked grin. I forgot to tell you. I'm surprised you didn't know yourself. You're pregnant. What? I stared at him in shock. This makes it even better. He raised the whip again. Alpha Marcus already knows. He gave specific instructions for us to handle the little problem in your belly. Another lash, this one landing squarely across my lower stomach. I barely registered the physical pain. Pregnant? I was pregnant? The morning sickness, the nausea, the changes in my body. No, don't hurt my baby, I screamed instinctively, but I couldn't stop the warm gush of blood between my legs. I reached for my stomach, but I could no longer feel the flicker of life that had been there. Quiet now, Luna, a guard whispered as he walked by. We've fulfilled our promise to Alpha Marcus. The other little mistake is gone now. Now the partnership between our packs can proceed. My world shattered. My baby mommy's so sorry, I'm so sorry, my second child. Marcus's second child. And it had all been arranged by the man I once considered my entire world. He had personally sent me and our unborn child to our deaths. When I next awoke, I was in Marcus's arms. He had burst into the dungeon and was kneeling on the floor, holding my blood-soaked body. Tears streamed down his face, and his voice trembled. Elena, I'm so sorry I was too late. For a fleeting moment. I thought I saw genuine anguish in his eyes. But my world was already a wasteland. I used my last ounce of strength to whisper. Our baby is gone. Marcus's face went ashen. It's going to be okay. We'll have more pups, I swear it. He lifted me with infinite care, as if I were the most precious treasure in the world. As we reached the dungeon's exit, Alpha Damon watched us with an amused look. You're a cruel bastard, Marcus. That was your own flesh and blood. He smirked. But congratulations, Alpha Marcus. I look forward to a long and prosperous partnership. A white ceiling. The sharp, antiseptic smell of a hospital. I slowly opened my eyes and found myself in the pack's state-of-the-art private medical facility. My body was wrapped in bandages, and 4-line taped to my arm. But the most devastating feeling was the profound emptiness in my lower abdomen. I never even had the chance to truly feel the small life that had been growing there. Elena? You're awake. Marcus shot up from his chair, his eyes bloodshot. How do you feel? I turned my head away, unable to look at him. The healers say you need to rest, he said, his hand reaching to stroke my face. Don't worry, I'll take care of you. Get out, I rasped. Elena, I said, get out. Marcus was silent for a few seconds before finally nodding and walking out of the room. With no strength left to fight, I drifted into a restless sleep, haunted by the voices of my 2 pups calling out for their mother. I was drifting somewhere between sleep and consciousness when I heard hushed voices just outside my door. It was Marcus and Adrin. I forced myself to stay awake, straining to hear. Alpha, how is the Luna's condition? Adrin's voice was filled with worry. Her physical wounds will heal, but Marcus paused. Seeing her like that, the pain I felt through our mate bond was like a knife in my own heart. Then why? Because I had to. Marcus's voice went cold as ice. It's the price she has to pay. Cecilia can never be a mother because of Elena. So why should she? But Alpha, that was your own blood. Blood? Marcus scoffed. Adrin, you don't understand. My feelings for Elena are complicated. I love her, but I hate her more. Every time I see her happy, I think of Cecilia in that wheelchair. So this is your choice? I choose to make her pay, Marcus said, his voice a low growl. I'm using her pain to fill the void Cecilia's loss created. My hands clenched into fists. But Alpha, what about what happened with Rylan? We will not speak of that again. Elena can never know. In that moment my heart died. From the very beginning, I was nothing more than a tool for his revenge. He had never loved me. It was always her. Always Cecilia. I placed a hand on my now flat stomach. The agony of losing 2 children, one after another, searing through me. Rylan, my 5-year-old son, poisoned by his own father. My second child, sacrificed to his enemies before I even knew I was carrying it. 2 innocent lives, both offerings to his twisted, obsessive love for another woman. Remember, Adrin, Marcus said finally. Elena can never find out about any of this. She would never forgive me. Never forgive him? He was right about that. I closed my eyes and let the tears fall. My wolf was howling inside me, baying for revenge. For 5 long years, I had loved a man who saw me as his enemy, a fool in love. And all that time, he had been basking in my affection while systematically destroying everything I held dear. The footsteps faded down the hall. Lying alone in that hospital bed, for the first time in my life, I felt the flames of vengeance ignite within me. I won't just make you pay, Marcus, I thought, a cold fire burning in my chest. I will burn your world to the ground. Just like you did to mine. My love, you're awake. Marcus walked in carrying a bouquet of white roses. His eyes were swollen, his face etched with exhaustion. I'm going to make the Black Stone Pack pay, he said, coming to my bedside and taking my hand. They murdered our child. I will never forgive them. They? Who was the real murderer of the child in my womb? I watched his flawless performance, and my stomach roiled. What are you going to do? I asked, suppressing the inferno of rage inside me. First, I'll cut off their funding, then Marcus launched into a detailed account of his revenge plan. Every word another twist of the knife. Enough. I cut him off. Marcus stopped, looking at me with concern. Elena, are you okay? I don't want to hear it, I said, pressing my fingers to my temples. Don't you have things to deal with? Isn't that major trade agreement with the Black Stone Pack supposed to be signed today? None of that matters. What matters is you, Marcus, I said, meeting his eyes. I'm very tired right now. I need to rest. You should go handle your business. For our pack. All right, Marcus hesitated, then gently stroked my cheek. Call a nurse if you need anything. The moment the door closed, I reached out to Adrin through our mind link. Adrin, I need to talk to you. Come to my room. Now. 10 minutes later, Adrin rushed in. Luna, how are you feeling? Adrin. I looked him straight in the eye. I know. The color drained from his face. You know what? Rylan. My second child. And your deal with the Black Stone Pack. I held his gaze. Everything. Don't lie to me. My voice was sharp as a razor. I heard your conversation. About Cecilia, about the price I had to pay, about all of it. Adrin began to tremble. Tell me the truth, Adrin. I said, sitting up, the power of my own bloodline radiating from me. Tell me exactly how Marcus killed Rylan. Luna, please don't. Tell me. Adrin collapsed to his knees, utterly broken. It was wolfsbane, he choked out. A slow-acting dose, mixed into Rylan's milk every day. Little by little, my blood ran cold. For how long? 3 months, Adrin whispered, his voice barely audible. Starting on his 5th birthday. 3 months. My pup had suffered for 3 months. And what about the Black Stone Pack? The Alpha made a deal with them, Adrin said, looking up with tears in his eyes. In exchange for your humiliation, he secured a 10-year trade agreement. Luna, you have to understand. Alpha Damon is Cecilia's brother. To their pack, she's their princess. And you, I said, my voice dripping with contempt. I once admired you, Adrin. Your integrity. And now you help him do this. I had no choice. He is my alpha. Adrin cried out in despair. But I can't sleep at night. I watched Rylan get weaker every day. Adrin closed his eyes, the full truth spilling out in a torrent of pain. The alpha said that since you caused Cecilia to lose her chance at being a mother, you didn't deserve to have children either, he trembled. He said he was making you atone. Atonement. I let out a hollow laugh. Killing our children was his way of helping me atone. But Elena, Adrin added, stammering. Every time the alpha hurts you, he's in agony himself because of the bond. Agony. I sneered. Adrin, do you have any idea what agony is? I walked to the window and stared out at the city lights. It's watching your 5-year-old son cough up blood every day, not knowing he's being slowly poisoned by his own father. Luna, it's losing your second child in an enemy's dungeon, only to find out it was all a plan orchestrated by the husband you love. I turned back to face him. That is agony. Adrin bowed his head, unable to meet my eyes. Now, if you have a single shred of conscience left, you will do something for me, I said, my voice hard as steel. Help me get out of here. What? I'm going to the Alpha King, I said, grabbing his arm. I'm filing a formal rejection. Reject him? Luna, you're marked. The pain of a formal rejection, it could destroy him. It could kill him. He should have been dead a long time ago. Seeing the resolve in my eyes, Adrin began to shake. If you don't help me, I will tell everyone in this pack the truth, I said, moving closer. I'll tell them how Marcus poisoned the future Alpha heir. All right, Adrin conceded. I'll help you. An hour later, I was in the back of an ordinary sedan, dressed in a nurse's uniform. Adrin had forged my identity papers and discharge forms. Luna, are you sure about this? Adrin asked one last time. Once you submit the rejection, there's no turning back. For me, there has been no turning back for a long time, I said, watching the scenery fly past the window. Since the moment he killed Rylan. The car stopped in front of a luxury office building downtown. It housed the pack's top law firm. Luna, are you certain you wish to proceed? The lawyer asked, reviewing the documents. Rejecting an Alpha, especially a mate you have lived with for years, will cause you immense pain. I'm certain. You're certain, then please sign here. I signed my name without a moment's hesitation. This petition will be submitted directly to the Alpha King, the lawyer said. You will have a response within 3 days. Meanwhile, Marcus was returning to the hospital with my favorite strawberry cake. He pushed open the door to my room and found the bed empty. Elena. He looked around, his voice rising in panic. Elena. A nurse rushed in. Alpha Marcus, the Luna left about an hour ago. Marcus's expression became terrifying. What? Where did she go? I don't know. She said she was just going out for some air. Marcus stormed out of the room, frantically calling for me through our mind link. There was no response. I had already severed the connection. He found Adrin in his office at the pack headquarters, standing ramrod straight and holding a document. Adrin. Where is Elena? Marcus demanded, grabbing him by the shoulders. Adrin silently handed him the file. It was a copy of the rejection petition. When Marcus read the first line, his entire world crumbled. Formal petition to reject Alpha Marcus of the Shadow Moon Pack. Alpha, Adrin's voice trembled. The Luna she knows. Knows what? Everything. About Rylan, about the Blackstone Pack, about everything. The papers in Marcus's hands began to shake. Suddenly, he let out a guttural roar and ripped the documents to shreds, the pieces fluttering around the room like snow. In that same instant, an invisible claw ripped through his chest, the searing pain of the mate bond beginning to tear. Marcus coughed, spitting a mouthful of blood onto the floor as he dropped to his knees. No, Elena can't do this. He struggled to his feet and seized Adrin's collar, his eyes wild with desperation. Tell me where she is. Alpha, let her go, Adrin said, tears streaming down his face. You've hurt her too much. No, Marcus roared, a sound of pure agony and rage. She can't. She's mine. I won't let her go. Tell me where she is. Let her go, Alpha. Adrin looked at the shredded paper on the floor, then at Marcus, who was kneeling and spitting blood. You've already done more than enough damage. Damage. Marcus struggled to his feet, his eyes blood red. Everything I did for her. For her. Adrin took a step back. You did it for Cecilia, not Elena. I love Elena. Marcus roared, his hands trembling. Do you have any idea how much I've done for her? I saved her family from bankruptcy. I gav her the best life. A crazed light gleamed in Marcus's eyes. I made her the most respected Luna in the world. I go with her to Rylan's grave every single month. Even knowing I was the one who put him there, he clutched his chest. Every time I see her cry, it feels like my own heart is being ripped apart. But I owed Cecilia so much. Marcus's voice cracked. Elena was the reason Cecilia lost her legs, the reason she can never be a mother. I was just trying to find a balance. Adrin gasped. Balance. Adrin's voice began to tremble. You call murdering your own pup balance? Marcus's face twisted in agony. I gave Elena 5 years of happiness. 5 years, he screamed. I held her every night and told her I loved her. I bought her the most expensive jewelry, the most beautiful clothes. But every time she smiled so genuinely happy, all I could see was Cecilia in that wheelchair. Tears mixed with blood streamed down Marcus's face. Why did Elena get to be so happy while Cecilia had to suffer so much? And what did Rylan do wrong? Adrin roared. What did that 5-year-old pup do to deserve any of this? He was the price. Marcus's voice dwindled to a whisper. The price? Adrin finally snapped, grabbing Marcus by the collar. You poisoned your own flesh and blood with wolfsbane. Marcus slammed against the wall. You handed your pregnant mate, the Luna you swore to protect, over to our enemies. Adrin's eyes burned with fury. And because of you she lost a second pup. Watching her get tortured in the Black Stone Pack's dungeons, it was killing me too. Marcus defended himself. The mate bond made me feel every ounce of her pain. Then why didn't you stop it? Because it was what she owed Cecilia. And you call that love? Adrin screamed. You call this twisted, sick revenge love? The question left Marcus stunned, rooted to the spot. He remembered Elena when she was pregnant with Rylan, so beautiful and so happy. He remembered how his own hands had trembled as he'd added the wolfsbane to Rylan's milk. He remembered hiding in the shadows, weeping, as he watched Elena cradle a dying Rylan in her arms. I do love her, his voice was faint. But every time I saw her happy, I thought of Cecilia in her wheelchair. So you decided to destroy her? To destroy your children? Adrin let him go. Marcus, do you have any idea what you've done? Marcus clutched his chest as the tearing pain of the mate bond intensified. Suddenly, he realized what he had truly lost. It wasn't the satisfaction of revenge, nor was it settling his debt to Cecilia. It was Elena. The mate who had loved him with her entire being, who had once looked at him as if he were her whole world. It was the Luna who, even after the devastating loss of their son, had still tried so hard to build a family with him. The sensation from the mate bond was no longer a simple tearing, but a soul-searing agony, branded with the truth. I can't lose her. Marcus finally collapsed to his knees begging. Please tell me where she is. In the end Adrin told him. Not out of betrayal, but out of fear. Fear of what a desperate Marcus might do next. She's at the ancestral Leakin cemetery on Mooncrest Mountain, Adrin said, his voice thick with guilt. In front of the memorial she built for Rylan. Without another word, Marcus turned and left. 2 hours later, I was kneeling before a black stone monument. It was on the farthest edge of the Mooncrest Cemetery, far from the shadow. Moonpack's family burial grounds. The stone was engraved with the words Rylan, our forever little prince, and below it, a detailed carving of a wolf's head. I had built it in secret with my own savings. Marcus never knew it existed. Mommy's here to see you again, my sweet pup. I stroked the cool stone. I'm so sorry Mommy couldn't protect you. Elena. That familiar voice sounded behind me. I didn't turn around, continuing to arrange the white roses in front of the monument. How did you find me? The mate bond. Marcus's voice was hoarse. Even if you sever our mind link, I can still feel your pain. I let out a cold laugh. Pain. So our great alpha Marcus does know what pain feels like. Footsteps drew closer, then stopped beside me. Marcus knelt on one knee, bringing himself to my eye level. He looked haggard and exhausted, his eyes shot with blood. Elena, please listen to me. His voice was pleading. I know I was wrong. I know I hurt you. Hurt me. I finally turned to face him. Marcus, you didn't just hurt me. You destroyed me. I can make it up to you. Make it up to me? I shot to my feet, my emotions finally erupting. Can you bring Rylan back? Marcus's face went white. Can you bring back my unborn pup? I shrieked. Tell me, how are you going to make up for that? Elena, you can't fix any of it. I pulled a small silver dagger from my bag and pointed it at my own heart. You take one more step, and I'll sever our bond for good. The tip of the silver blade pressed against my chest, drawing a single bead of blood. Marcus froze instantly. No, Elena, put the dagger down, just listen to me. His voice trembled. Why? I sneered. In your eyes, my life is worthless anyway. My children and I were nothing but sacrifices for Cecilia. That's not true. Marcus started to move forward, but backed away when he saw the blade. I love you, Elena. I truly love you. Love. I shook my head. Marcus, you don't even know what the word means. What you feel for me isn't love. It's possession. It's control. It's a sick, twisted form of revenge. After everything you've done, how could you expect me to believe you love me? Marcus knelt on the ground, tears streaming down his face. Please, Elena, please just trust me one more time. I gave you 5 years of chances. I looked at him, my eyes devoid of any warmth. For 5 years, you held me every night and told me you loved me, while spending your days plotting how to kill our children. Get out. My voice was ice. Get out of my sight and never come back. Marcus struggled to his feet. Seeing the silver dagger in my hand, he finally relented and backed away. Elena, he said, turning back after a few steps, a desperate obsession burning in his eyes. I will never agree to the rejection. I will trade anything, even my own life, for your forgiveness. After leaving the cemetery, Marcus floored it, the car speeding down the road for a full half hour. His hands trembled on the steering wheel as Elena's words echoed in his mind. Get out of my sight and never come back. No. He couldn't lose her. He absolutely could not. Marcus slammed his foot on the accelerator, the engine roaring as the car raced toward the pack house. 20 minutes later, rage and fear had completely consumed him. Lock down all exits. Now. Marcus's roar thundered through the pack house, making the entire building tremble. Find my Luna. Bring her back to me at any cost. Standing in his office, Adrin watched the unhinged Alpha, his heart pounding with dread. Alpha, you need to calm down. Calm down? Marcus's eyes were blood red. She wants to reject me. She's trying to leave me for good. He swept a pile of documents off his desk, sending them flying against the wall. Assemble all warriors. Use the tracking rituals. Access every security camera in the city. His Alpha command was absolute. I want to see her within the hour. At the same time, I was sitting in a plane taxi. My phone buzzed frantically. It was Adrin. Elena, get out of there. Now. His voice was frantic. The Alpha has lost his mind. He's ordered a citywide manhunt for you. What? They have your scent sample, Adrin said, his voice rushed. They're closing in on you. I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a convoy of black SUVs in the distance. It's too late. They've already found me. Head for the East District. Adrin was practically shouting. There's a motorcycle and an escape route waiting for you in the old industrial park. You can get out through the underground tunnels. Step on it. I yelled at the driver. We're being followed. The taxi driver was human. His face went pale when he saw the cars in the mirror. God's lady, who did you piss off? Just drive. The car weaved frantically through the city, but the pack warriors were like shadows, staying right behind us. I could feel the tidal wave of Marcus's rage and despair through the mate bond. And through that same connection, he could vaguely sense my location. Turn left. The tires screeched as the taxi made a sharp turn into a narrow alley. But another black vehicle was already there, blocking the way. We're surrounded. The driver screamed in terror. Stop the car. I threw a wad of cash onto the seat. I'll make a run for it. The moment I jumped out, I heard the howling of a wolf pack in the distance. They were tracking me the old way. I sprinted into the old industrial park, weaving between derelict buildings. The sound of footsteps panting, and the low growls of wolves grew closer and closer behind me. Finally, I reached the entrance to the underground parking garage. But just as I was about to run inside, a powerful alpha aura slammed down from all sides. Marcus's figure emerged from the shadows, blocking the only way out. Of course. In the end, he had to be the one to find me himself. That's enough, Elena. His voice was hoarse with suppressed pain. Come home with me. Home? I scoffed. I don't have a home. Don't make me do this the hard way. Marcus advanced step by step, his alpha presence making the very air tremble. The hard way. I took a step back, feeling no fear. What more can you do? Kill me. I would never hurt you. A crazed look flashed in Marcus's eyes. But I will never, ever let you leave me. I watched him silently, then held up my phone. The screen showed a sent mail confirmation. It's too late, Marcus, I said, meeting his gaze and enunciating every word. The moment I left the hospital, my lawyer sent the rejection petition, along with all the evidence, directly to the Alpha King. Marcus froze. What did you do? The proof that you poisoned Rylan with wolfsbane. The recordings of your deal with the Blackstone Pack. Adrin's full sworn testimony, I said calmly. I sent everything. If you try to take me by force now, you'll be openly defying the crown. I watched the fear bleed into his eyes. Do you dare? The color drained from Marcus's face. For the first time, the madness and possessiveness in his eyes were being replaced by something else. Pure terror. You dared to involve the Alpha King? He squeezed the words out through his teeth. You forced my hand, I replied coldly. Marcus stood frozen, his face ashen. Elena, he started to say. Move, I said flatly. I'm leaving. You can't. The Alpha King's response is already on its way, I said, looking at him. If you try to stop me within the next 3 days, you will be committing treason. Marcus's hands were trembling. Finally, he stepped aside. 3 days later, I was sitting in a human law firm. Ms. Watson, here are the registration documents for your new company, the lawyer said, pushing a stack of papers toward me. Moonlight Design Studio, specializing in interior design. I signed my name, feeling the weight of the pen in my hand. For the first time in my life, this was something that truly belonged to me. And this, the lawyer handed me a key. The office downtown. It's been renovated to your specifications. I took the key, its new metal glinting. Thank you. Stepping out of the law office, I took a deep breath. The air in the human world was free of the Leakin scent, free of pack hierarchy, free of an alpha's control. It was the air of freedom. A week later, Moonlight Design Studio officially opened for business. My first clients were a young couple who wanted to decorate their new home. We want it to feel like a real home, the girl said, holding her boyfriend's hand. Warm and full of love. I smiled and nodded, but my heart felt hollow. Love. It had been a long time since I'd felt what that was. I was deep in my work when Adrin showed up. Elena, we need to talk. He stood at the studio entrance, his expression complicated. There's nothing to talk about, I said, continuing to sketch. I am no longer the Luna of the Shadow Moon Pack. The Alpha, Adrin walked in. He signed over half his company's shares to you. My pen stopped. And the pack's primary assets, the deed to the pack house, and everything he personally owned. Adrin's voice trembled. He gave it all to you. I don't want any of it, I said without looking up. Elena, he also declared war on the Blackstone Pack, Adrin continued. To avenge Rylan and the pup you lost. Avenge them? I sneered. He's the one who killed them. Who is he even trying to get revenge on? He's already destroyed 3 of their strongholds and captured their beta. Adrin's voice grew quieter. The entire Leakin world is talking about how the Alpha of the Shadow Moon Pack is avenging his mate and children. Enough. I threw my pen down. I don't want to hear it. Still playing the grieving, devoted mate. It made me sick. Elena, he's truly trying to atone, is he? I stood up, my eyes blazing with anger. He murdered our 2 children, and now he thinks he can buy my forgiveness with money? Adrin was stunned into silence by my fury. Get out. I pointed to the door. And tell him I don't want his money, his revenge, or his atonement. But out. Adrin finally left, but not before leaving a file folder on the table. This is a copy of the asset transfer, he said. Whether you want it or not, it's all yours now. I didn't touch the folder. For the next month, I poured all my energy into the studio. There were only design plans, client meetings, and the quiet of a normal human life. I thought I had finally found peace. Until that rainy night. I was working late at the studio, thunder rumbling outside. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. I looked through the glass and froze. Standing outside, soaked to the bone and utterly wretched, was Marcus. His eyes were bloodshot and his face was gaunt. All his alpha authority was gone. Elena, his voice came faintly through the glass, hoarse and pained. For a split second, I actually felt a flicker of pity. Please let me in. I'm not letting you in. I watched him coldly through the glass door. Elena, please just listen to me. Marcus's voice cut through the downpour. I've destroyed the Black Stone Pack. So, I avenged Rylan. I avenged the child we lost. A fanatical gleam lit his eyes. Their alpha is dead, and I tore their beta apart with my own hands. I let out a cold laugh. And you think that will make me forgive you? Elena, Marcus fell to his knees outside the door, rain plastering his hair to his face. Please just give me a chance. I stood up, but I didn't look at him. What kind of chance do you want? Let me make it up to you. Let me spend the rest of my life proving it to you. Marcus, don't you understand yet? There's nothing left between us. There is no us. My voice was completely flat. Not since the moment you chose to murder Rylan. But I can give you more children. Shut up. I slammed my hands against the glass door. Do you think children are commodities that can be replaced? I couldn't believe he could still say something so monstrous. Marcus was stunned into silence by my rage. No, that's not what I meant. You want me to forgive you? I calmed myself, my voice turning to ice. Fine. I'll give you one condition. Marcus immediately looked up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. Go kneel before Rylan's grave. I said, each word a shard of ice. Kneel there until I tell you to stop. I'll go. Marcus scrambled to his feet without a second's hesitation. I'll go right now. Then go, I said, turning back to my desk. And get your disgusting face out of my sight. Marcus left, leaving a puddle of rainwater on the pavement. I thought he was just putting on another act. But the next day, Adrin called. Elena, the alpha is actually kneeling at Rylan's grave, he said, his voice filled with worry. He's been there since last night. He hasn't moved. So what? He's suffering from extreme exhaustion. His wolf is becoming unstable, Adrin said urgently. If this continues, his wolf will go dormant. It would be better if he died. I hung up and went back to work. On the third night, I finally went to the cemetery. Not because I was worried, but because I wanted to see him broken. From a distance, I could see a figure kneeling in front of Rylan's monument. Marcus was on the verge of collapse, his body shivering in the cold rain. His lips were blue and his eyes were unfocused, but he was still kneeling stubbornly. Rylan, Daddy's so sorry, he muttered to himself. Daddy knows he was wrong. I moved a little closer, and the sound of my footsteps startled him. Marcus struggled to lift his head and saw me. Elena, he reached out a trembling hand. You came. I stood 10 feet away, watching him with cold indifference. Are you here to forgive me? Marcus tried to crawl toward me, but his body wouldn't obey. I didn't say a word, just watched him silently. Watched this once powerful alpha groveling like a dog in the mud and rain. Elena, please. Marcus's voice grew weaker. I really do know I was wrong. I love you. I love Rylan. He passed out before he could finish his sentence, collapsing in front of the gravestone. I still didn't move. I had heard those words countless times. But in that moment, I saw the light in his eyes die completely. Marcus finally understood. Some wounds can never be forgiven. He knew that with the lives of 2 pups between them, there was no going back. A month later, in the Grand Hall of the Alpha King, Elena has refused all of your assets. I sat on the witness stand, looking at the gaunt, broken man across from me. Marcus had lost at least 20 pounds. His hair was streaked with gray, and he had none of his former alpha authority. Marcus Watson, do you consent to Elena Watson's petition for rejection? The Alpha King's authoritative voice echoed through the hall. Marcus slowly lifted his head, his eyes shot with blood. No, his voice was a raw whisper. I do not. The Alpha King frowned. On what grounds? She is my mate. The only partner the Moon Goddess has granted me, Marcus said, his gaze fixed on me. I love her. I scoffed. Marcus Watson. The Alpha King's voice turned severe. You are accused of poisoning your own pup with wolfsbane, and conspiring with a rival pack to harm your mate. Do you confess to these charges? Marcus was silent for a long moment. I confess. Then on what grounds do you believe Elena should remain your mate? Because I love her. Marcus suddenly grew agitated. I can give my life to make amends. He turned to me and dropped to his knees. Elena, please don't reject me. Tears rolled down his face. I know I was wrong, but I truly do love you. Love. I stood up, my voice like ice. Marcus, do you even know what love is? I do. You love control. You love possession. You love the idea that what is yours can never leave you. I walked toward him, step by step. That isn't love. It's a sickness. My words struck him like a physical blow, and his body trembled. Elena, please give me a chance to prove. A chance? I stopped in front of him. Did you give Rylan a chance? Did you give the child in my womb a chance? Marcus had no answer. I now formally reject you before the Alpha King. I raised my right hand and began the ancient rite. I, Elena Watson, in the presence of the Moon Goddess, do hereby and forever sever the mate bond with Marcus Watson. No, Marcus tried to stand and stop me, but the Alpha King's power slammed down on him, pinning him in place. From this day forward, we are bound no more. I continued the ritual words. In life we will not meet. In death we will not disturb. As the last word fell, I felt the mate bond inside me begin to tear. A wave of excruciating pain hit me, but I gritted my teeth and stood firm. Marcus let out a howl of agony, blood spraying from his lips. The moment the bond shattered completely, he nearly passed out. The rite is complete, the Alpha King declared. From this moment on, you are no longer mates. Marcus collapsed to the floor, his eyes vacant. Adrin, he said, his voice trembling. Come here. Adrin went to his side. I am transferring all my assets to you, including the right of succession to the Alpha title, Marcus said weakly. Please continue to protect Elena. Alpha, and take care of everyone in the pack. I'm counting on you. Marcus looked at me one last time. Elena, even though you are no longer my mate, I will still. Don't. I cut him off, turning and walking toward the great doors of the hall. I didn't look back. Some mistakes can never be fixed, and some souls can never be redeemed. That chapter of my life was closed. The pain would fade, but the scars would remain, a reminder of the price of love and betrayal. From the ashes, I would build something new. Something that was entirely my own. 5 years later. Mommy, is this for my little brother? My 3-year-old daughter, Amy asked, pointing at my pregnant belly. Yes, sweetie, I said, stroking her hair. You're going to be a big sister soon. Yay, she cheered, jumping up and down. Taylor walked out of the kitchen, holding a cup of my favorite honey tea. Careful now, don't overdo it, he said gently. I took the cup, looking at the mate who truly loved me. The Moon Goddess had not abandoned me. She had given me a mate who knew how to cherish me, a complete family, a beautiful daughter, and another child on the way. Today's the day, I said softly. I want to go see Rylan. I'll go with you, Taylor said without hesitation. That afternoon, we went to the Mooncrest Cemetery. Amy skipped ahead of us as Taylor helped me walk slowly toward Rylan's gravestone. Just as I was setting down the flowers, Amy came running back. Mommy, there's a weird man over there, she said, pointing toward the far corner of the cemetery. He keeps talking to himself. I looked up and saw a ragged figure in the distance. Elena, Elena, a voice was muttering. My heart skipped a beat. It was Marcus. 5 years had passed. He was so thin he was almost unrecognizable, his hair completely white. He was huddled in a corner like a beggar. Elena, I'm sorry, Elena, he was still repeating the same words. Taylor noticed my strange reaction and followed my gaze. Is that? He's just a lost soul, I said, my voice even as I pulled my gaze away. Let's go, sweetie. I knelt before Rylan's grave and gently stroked the stone. Mommy's here to see you, sweet pup. My voice was gentle. The Moon Goddess has smiled on me again. She's given me a new family. You're going to have a little brother or sister soon, and I'll make sure they know all about their big brother watching over them. Amy dutifully placed a small flower next to mine. Hi, Brother Rylan. I'm Amy, she said in her small, sweet voice. Mommy says you're in the sky watching over us. Tears welled in my eyes, but they were tears of happiness. My sweet pup, I know you can see this. You'd be happy for me, wouldn't you? The storm had passed. It was all truly over.